Can't believe how long it's taken me to make this video, but this one is massive for the FX30 because this is an APS-C sensor. When you throw it into 4K 120 frames per second, it gets a little bit noisy. You do have to saturate that sensor with a whole bunch of light, and this lens can actually help do that with a T1.05. That is mind-blowing. This thing lets in a ton of light, and these cinema lenses are really good value, and I'm going to be explaining in this video why. But first, disclaimer, they did send me these lenses, but they did not pay me. They did not tell me what to say. I can say whatever I want about these. And that short film that I recently shot, I used this throughout the whole film because I did want to throw this into a real world situation. I've used this for a fair few weeks now. Man, I love these lenses. The great thing about this is that you can have them for so many other different mounts. The Canon RF mount, the Sony E mount, the Fuji X, the Leica L and the MFT mounts, which is amazing. So in this video, we're going to be exploring what these are all about, the price, the quality, the image that you actually get out of this, and hopefully we can discover if this is going to be worth your money. But spoiler alert, you're going to want to buy these lenses. Let's get into it. So 7artisans have brought out their Vision series cinema lenses. These ones have a wide aperture of 1.05 to a T16, have a 13 blade aperture diaphragm. It has a 82mm front filter thread. The gear rings are in all the same position, so if you do change lenses, they're going to be in the exact same spot. It is a full metal design and has a full 270-degree focus throw. These lenses currently have 4 different models. You've got the 12mm, which is a T2.9, and then you've got the 25, 35, and the 50mm, which is a T1.05. Now, first of all, let's talk about price. The 12mm is actually the cheapest of the bunch because it is a T2.9 as well. But stepping up, the next one is the 50mm at 390 USD, which you have to remember is a T1.05. The next one is actually the 35mm, which is a 459 US, and the most expensive is the 25mm, which is 509 US, but that is 25mm at T1.05. So when it comes to this price and what you actually get out of it in terms of the features, this is very well priced. The closest competitors that actually comes to this lens with very similar quality is actually the Vision Cine lenses, but they are actually T2.2. So like I said, one of the biggest pros about this is that T-stop. It's a T1.05. So essentially, T-stop is the transmitted light that gets directly into your sensor. And F-stop essentially is just the measurement that's at the front of the lens, and you do lose light going into the lens due to diffractions and all those kind of things. And T-stop obviously is that very calculated value that hits the sensor, which is important when you change between the lenses. You know you're going to get exactly the same amount of light transmission. So you don't have to play with your exposure with lightings or aperture, which is really crucial when you're on set. Now, the great thing, like I said, about changing lenses is that your aperture ring and your focus ring is in the exact same spot. So if you use focus motors or an aperture motor, you don't actually have to change those. You can literally just take this lens off, put the new lens back on, and it's going to be in the exact same spot. And that's going to save you so much time and is pretty much seen on all professional cinema lenses. I think one of the biggest benefits of this lens is that it does come in so many different mounts. You know, the RF mount, the Sony E mount, the Fuji X, you've got the Leica mount and the Micro Four Thirds mount as well. So you've got so many different options that you can actually utilize this with, which makes this thing extremely versatile. Now, there are 2 key advantages of having a really wide T1.05 aperture, and essentially that is letting in more light. So you're going to obviously have more light at T1.05 than you would at T1.4. But also that comes with the low aperture is depth of field. So you're going to have a shallower depth of field at a T1.05 than you would at a T1.4 or T2. So this could give you much more light and much more creative freedom when it comes to filming your projects. But first of all, we have to talk about the image quality and sharpness of this lens. Now, while these aren't the sharpest lenses by all means, when it comes to wide open at t1.05, on pretty much all three lenses that I've got, they are very soft, and when it comes to the edges, they do tend to fall off and look way softer. They are sharper in the center and then gets, gradually softer out into the corners. But this is a very stylistic choice. If you do want a little bit more sharpness in the center, t1.4 or t1.8 is probably where you're going to get really nice sort of sharpness and compromise for that nice fall off. But essentially you buy these lenses for the character. They are not optically sharp, but they just look absolutely beautiful with that focus fall off. And one of the big things that you need to consider as well is the chromatic aberration wide open at t1.05. You do tend to get quite a lot, and it does get a little bit subdued when it comes to t1.6 to t1.8, roughly around there. But that is very similar when it comes to really wide, fast lenses. I think out of the three lenses that I do have, the 35mm at the closest focusing distance did actually seem relatively sharp wide open at t1.05. It was probably the sharpest out of the lot here. But the chromatic aberration, you could definitely tell. You could see a bit of green or purple fringing around the edges, but nonetheless, it still looks like a beautiful image. If you do want less of that chromatic aberration, you just have to stop down just a little bit, t1.6 or t1.8. Now, the biggest key thing why you would actually get cinema lenses is that full manual control, and having a 270-degree focus throw is extremely important because it gives you so much more accuracy when it comes to focus. If you have a shorter throw, essentially you're going to be focusing pretty difficultly when it comes to, trying to get that manual focus in. But if you are hand focusing, that's when it actually matters the most. But if you have a follow focus wheel, it obviously matters a little bit less depending on the strength you actually have that focus wheel. Or if you have a wireless follow focus system, it shouldn't really matter when it comes to a larger focus throw because it depends on how fast your focus motor actually goes. So this is one massive tip I can recommend when actually utilizing manual focus, and that is focus magnification, or some brands call it critical focus. The great thing about the FX3 and FX30, they do have a button that's already there that's custom towards this. You literally press it and it will actually zoom in so you can actually do your manual focus and get some critical focus, and then you can press it a couple more times and it will zoom back out. I actually did this quite a lot when I was wide open at t1.05 or even at t1.4, just critical zoom in, get that nice critical focus, and then zoom back out. But the whole idea of having manual focus controls is that you want to have the ability to do some creative focus pulls, or it can actually look much more natural going in and out of focus a little bit rather than focus pulsing or staying completely focused on the eye the whole time. It really depends on your stylistic choice. With this short film, I just wanted to have that full control of manual focus. Like I do with most of my films, I love to have full control when it comes to manual focus. So let's talk about the bokeh quality of this lens. Now, when it comes to the bokeh quality, it's an interesting one because it's not clinically clean and smooth like you see in your G Master lenses, but it's also not extreme vintage look. It's kind of like a mash in between both. It's very stylistic and I really like it. It's very smooth, but not too smooth. And it still has a little bit of character, but it's all subjective. It really just depends on what you actually prefer. But these lenses do offer more of a vintage style, more characteristic to its bokeh quality. Now, lastly, let's talk about flaring of this with direct lights going directly into the lens. This is wide open at t1.05 with the 25mm lens, and you can see it's not too bad. It doesn't really ghost too much. Now we go to the 35mm, and similar story, you get a little bit of flaring, but it's not crazy bad. It doesn't wash out the image too much. Wide open at t1.05. We go to 50mm now, and it's probably the worst out of the three, but still not too bad. Doesn't seem to wash out the image too much, but if you do stop it down to t1.4 or t1.6, they actually get a lot better. So overall, these ones come extremely recommended from me. I absolutely love it, especially if your camera isn't really good in low light situations. You do have that option to go T1.05, but you do have to, you know, take it into considerations that it's not going to be completely sharp, wide open. And if you want really nice character from cinema lenses, these ones are the choice. They're not clinically sharp. They have really nice out of focus backgrounds, just a really good sort of vintage look. And I love character when it comes to lenses, especially when it comes to cinematography. Character is a big thing that a lot of cinematographers actually chase, and I do think these ones really deliver for Super 35 or APS-C Micro Four Thirds sensors. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. That'd be amazing. Obviously subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. The link will be in the description below if you do want to check these ones out. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.